like this is the first guy, Pep met when he became city manager, and like this being the player that he is, it's very interesting, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, if he was more than 3 apples tall, he would be the best striker England has ever seen. But we have to make amends given the physical constraints and all that.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Monday Morning Manager. I am joined once again by Philcaso to talk about the Manchester Derby. My name is Dylan Meehan. I am a writer at City Xtra. Once again, thank you to Freddie and Jordan. And once again, no, I did not buy the channel. I am nowhere near rich enough to do that yet. Calling from a slightly different location, I am at a yurt in Malibu. I am not at my normal home, which is why the backdrop is a little bit different. But we're going to try to make it work. I'm in kind of the boonies. I've got trucks driving by everywhere. I'm going to do my best to edit and post to fix up the sound. Just want to check in with you, your thoughts on the Manchester Derby and kind of how you processed the last 24 hours.
Obviously, super excited to get a win. Super excited to just get some positivity into the fan base. It's been really, really nice. I think it was very much needed. And I think that it was needed not only within like us fans, but within the squad and stuff like that. I know Doku talked after the match. He's like, that international break came at the perfect time. This feels like a fresh start for us. We're back and we can forget everything that went on before the break. And yeah, I think it was an overall good vibes match. The players that you would want to score as usual with Foden and Holland. The two boyhood blues, like that's who you want to score against United, and it seems like they always do. So it was good to see that again. Yeah, overall, very positive. I think that we'll get into it. There are still some lingering concerns within the fan base that I think are valid. But yeah, it's nice to get a win. What do you think?
The good vibes aspect, I think, is the best. I think after the two losses to Wolves and Spurs, it had just been rough. It was a rough situation, and like the high from Wolves versus the current situation had changed so much. And just to see the win, to see how happy Holland and Foden were, and like Pep smiling, all of it, super excited about, which I think is going to lean into, because I wanted to mention it. After the second goal, you saw Donnarumma pumping up the crowd. There's the video of him knee sliding in front of the United away fans. Just absolutely fantastic. I want to know your thoughts on Donnarumma's, first appearance as a City player.
Well, first of all, shout out to his PR manager, because if there was, we were talking about all the concerns with if the fan base was going to embrace him or anything like that. Whatever they told him worked, because I've been seeing nothing but praise and nothing but good things said about him, and rightfully so. I mean, in terms of his performance on the pitch, the save was absolutely magical on Mbeumo. I mean, I was trying to think if our pass keepers even dive at that, because they're probably not big enough to even get close to it. So maybe they just watch that one fly in, to be honest. So it was really nice to have a keeper that you feel like, okay, this is a margins win for us. Like he will win on the margins where we might need a save like that to get through a big match and stuff like that, or to not turn the momentum. Because I remember in matches past, like matches yesterday, where we are struggling a little bit to control the match. We're leading still, but there's that bit of tension, that bit of anxiety building in the stadium, and then the opposition scores a wonder goal like that, and everything flips on its head, and maybe we don't get a result yesterday. So I think saves like that have more value than even shows up on the score sheet and stuff like that. So I was super excited to see him perform in that way. And even with some of the other concerns we had with him, the command of the box, I know people had mentioned that as a possible issue off of corners or off of crosses flighted in. And he was dominant in the air yesterday too, grabbing and punching and stuff like that. I think that was super important to see. And obviously you mentioned the knee slide in front of the away fans. I think that's exactly what you want out of your keeper. You want a big personality. And then after the match, he clapped the entire fans. He's rah-rahing with the entire fans, and that will win them over quicker than they probably even thought. So yeah, super promising start from him.
Yeah, it was the stuff in the air is honestly what I was kind of the most surprised about, because that was the thing that was kind of always talked with him, is like, oh, he can be kind of weak in the air. He's weak on crosses, and he didn't catch a lot, which I definitely noticed. He basically just slapped everything away. He's so big, it's hilarious. Like, honestly, I don't think he's that much taller than Ederson. I think he's a little bit taller than Ederson, but it just felt like he's so much more of a larger presence. And it just felt like he was like, it was like a bear claw, just like slapping these shots away and these crosses away. when they would kind of come in off of set pieces. And I was really surprised about it. The save was fantastic. Even early on, like the Sesko, it ended up not being a save because I think they ended up calling it a handball, even though it wasn't. Ball comes in over the top, and he kind of just slides in and really just like stays big. And I've seen Ederson make those saves before. It honestly reminded me a little bit of the Lautaro save from the Champions League final. But it just, there was this little bit more of a large commanding presence, and I didn't have as much kind of anxiety. Like whenever there was a one-on-one with Ederson and net, I was always incredibly anxious. And look, it's been one game. We could be, talking here after a few matches, and none of that matters anymore. But the initial impressions were just, this is someone who is so much better at defending, or shot stopping, I should say. And then the only downside is the distribution. I don't think it was good. There was even a time, I don't have the timestamp, but he like went to go pass out towards Nico O'Reilly on the left. It wasn't even close. A lot of the long balls were not particularly close. Sometimes they were, and City weren't able to win the second balls, which is its own issue in its own right. And like that is an issue that City have had for the past 2 seasons. But that's the only part where I was like, yeah, it's really not that great. That's the one little piece. But after one match, it's about as good as I could have asked for.
Yeah, I agree. I think that obviously, like you said, Ederson wasn't the best 1v1 keeper. And I think that this security, like it bled into like the way that we played. Like I feel like we were more aggressive sometimes in some of our buildup and stuff, just feeling comfortable that if there is a mistake, that maybe this guy can bail us out. Like I think that that's super important. But also you got to the distribution. I I think that it wasn't great. Obviously, it wasn't great. His numbers weren't great. It led to a lot of turnovers. But as I was watching the match, I didn't really feel like he was costing us. I didn't really feel like it was so detrimental to the point to where we couldn't play our game or we were hemorrhaging chances because of it. Like he wasn't giving it away right into the center of midfield and stuff like that. And I also feel like the way that Haaland's game is developing in terms of his hold up play and his general overall play really is going to be to the benefit of a keeper like this, to where just launch it up towards him. That's
Yeah.
we saw a lot of that yesterday. Just launch it towards him. Yes, certain games there are going to be center backs that can deal with him aerially, and maybe we will have to come up with another solution. I know we had talked about having one of the midfielders basically just go take it off of Donnarumma like Vitinha did with him at PSG, and that could be a potential solution. But I think as of now, especially against a lot of these lower to mid-table sides that aren't going to have center backs that can really physically deal with Haaland, I think that just dumping it up there to him and relying on him to win, I don't know, 50% of those and
Yeah.
get us possession is probably going to be pretty effective given the other characters and attack that we have around him up there, especially when someone like Marmoush is back. I'm just thinking of those second balls. If a midfielder is able to pick them up and then there's that secondary run quickly off of the wing, those are really hard things for teams to deal with, and I think that we will probably score a lot of goals off of that. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom with the distribution. I think that is something that we can mitigate, but yeah, it definitely was not perfect, I would say.
Yeah. But all in all, strong performance. Happy. I'm. You can take your victory lap. I know you were a
For sure.
huge proponent of this.
Big pats on my own back. I got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Transitioning a little bit out of the Donnarumma stuff. Kind of talk about the midfield overall. Just want I can kind of go into it a little bit, but basically, I mean, Foden, Reinders, and Rodri. I guess we can include Doku and Bernardo if you want, or if you'd rather kind of have them be kind of separate. I know we're technically playing a 4-1-4, but I always, or 4-1-4-1, I should say. I always just associate it as a 4-3-3 regardless. Just curious to kind of what you thought about Rodri's return, Foden kind of really like starting to claim that central spot, and then Reinders, continuing to develop as a City midfielder.
Yeah, I think that this midfield had its struggles yesterday. It has its cohesion issues at the moment, I would say, in terms of these players, obviously mega talented. I would say the Foden, Rodri, Reinders pairing, or three of them is probably the best group of three midfielders in the world that any team can probably put out. If you had to ask me personally, just given how clear Rodri is of other DMs in the space, in my opinion. So I think this is something that we're just going to have to work the kinks out of. This is something that, if it doesn't work, you don't bail on it right away. There's too much talent to be had here. And I think that was still seen yesterday, even through the struggles. I know Reinders is having he's had a bit of a issue the last couple of games, just with like a little bit of technical inconsistency. He's misplaced some passes that you'd expect him to keep in, but his positioning, the spots he's picking up, the things he's trying to do are all the things you would want him to do out there. He's linking up with Foden really well. He's able to track back. I know he had a couple of passes. I can think of the one that Nico O'Reilly picked up that was meant
Yep.
for Holland, that was going in on goal. And I'm just thinking of how different do we view his performance if that goes right to Holland and Holland smashes it, top corner. It's probably quite a different like viewing of how we view Reinder's performance. So I think that there's a lot of upside with him there, and obviously his pairing with Rodri is great. I think Rodri is a little rusty. Obviously, I mean that is to be expected. I think off of everything that he's gone through, not only the injury but then the recurring injuries afterwards, and just having to continuously take time off. So hopefully he can kick on with that. And I mean, we see all the things with Rodri. There's nothing different about him.
Yeah.
He's still the same player he was. Like he's the best defensive midfielder in the world, Ballon d'Or level player. That's all still there. He's just got to get back in sync. And then you go to Foden. That's what you want out of Foden. That's I tweeted it out, but this is the matured Foden game that we, I guess not we, but Pep has been trying to see for a
Yeah.
long time. I feel like not all of us really want to see it. We want to see, the Maverick Foden who carrying and dribbling and all of this, but he kept it really simple. He linked up deep in midfield. He linked up higher up in midfield. He was just a great connector for everything in midfield. And then not only that, he's arriving late in the box to score goals with, what I believe to be his best ability, which is his
Yeah.
finishing. He can finish from anywhere with any type of finish, with I don't know, with any type of scenario around him. He's really good in the chaos and in and around the 6 yard box. So yeah, I think there are a lot of promising signs. I mean, there are still the concerns. Is there enough legs in that midfield when we come up against potentially really physical midfields like we're going to see at the weekend against Arsenal? That's something that you really have to see. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see with that one. But I think that yeah, I think the performance was really promising.
Yeah. The Arsenal midfield matchup, I'm fascinated by. That's going to be, especially with Napoli as the in between. I mean, I feel like just everyone's going to play. I feel like they're your same three are going to play against Napoli, same three are going to play against Arsenal, which is terrifying. But yeah, I think Foden looked absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I think everyone wants that 2021 version, that left wing version, and I guess you could even say the version of when City won the fourth title as well in 23-24. But the way that he both set up and scored the goal, like he played the ball to Bernardo, him setting up the play, and then you always see him like run and just demand the ball to his feet. Like I just feel like when you watch any City game, especially when he's in midfield, he's just constantly asking for it. But him darting all the way around and then finally like slowing down and for that goal where you see him just like he finds that space and then just waits for the header. His heading ability is better than I think you would expect for someone that is like so short and slight. He had the same ball over the top to Bernardo when he was like deep in the corner, and Bernardo ended up losing the duel with Ugarte, and United won the ball back. But it was mentioned that finishing is like his strongest aspect, which I do agree with. Like he just really does have a really strong understanding and knowing either when to run or when to wait. And it's fascinating that like this is kind of becoming the part of his game that's the best. It's not what I think any of us would have expected when it was like Stockport, Iniesta. Like this is the first guy Pep met when he became City manager, and like this being the player that he is, it's very interesting, but it's fascinating.
Yeah, if he was more than 3 apples tall, he would be the best striker England has ever seen. But we have to make amends given the physical constraints and all that. He really, like you said, he's got all of the finishing in there. His
Yeah,
heading is extremely underrated, but I'm thinking of like even some of the finishes that Holland struggles with, like Foden doesn't really struggle with, like the quick, instinctual flicks into the net and stuff like that.
yeah.
Foden's got all that in the locker, and I think that it is really special. I hope he keeps getting put into positions where he can show this, to where we can keep creating chances from wide for him to capitalize on. Because I have no, I have no more faith in anybody. Well, maybe Marmoush's right foot from outside the box, but other than
Yeah.
that, I have no more faith in anybody's feet to score goals than Phil Foden. So
I think when Holland's in his, or not when Holland, sorry, when Foden is in his like spot, that little spot on the right wing, there are fewer things I'm more sure of that's at least going to be like a good effort than that. And I feel like he's probably only scored it maybe once or twice, but that goal that he had against Liverpool when he took it on like the left side of his left foot and like went across Allison's body, I feel like he's tried to score that goal like a dozen times and he hasn't been able to pull it off. But like I've seen you score from that ridiculous angle, and I'm expecting that to return now that he's kind of starting to play a little bit more on the left side as well.
I love him in midfield, and I think that it's really good. I'm interested to see if when Nico G plays in that, if he becomes more of a front two, which I think is more of a even more of a comfortable position for Foden as opposed to playing as a dual eights with Reinders and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that yeah, I really like to see him on that left side, like you said, playing that left center mid role as well, because I think his creation is underrated for that for the second Holland goal. Him and Nico O'Reilly's link up over there, and just his
Yeah,
ability to quickly shift the ball and then with the outside of his foot almost flick it around the corner to Doku, which
yeah.
Doku really only had to assist that ball going forward. He didn't have to change the direction of it or anything. So yeah, I think that that's really good to see from Foden because he had been criticized a bit for his playmaking area of his game in terms of always looking for a shot or always looking for the home run play. And I think that,
Yeah.
as we had mentioned earlier, there's a bit more simplicity coming into his game in that regard.
Yeah, like we saw the bits and pieces of it. Like even the assist years ago that he had to Liam Delap in the cup match against Bournemouth, like that's in his locker. I just don't think he's used it a lot, and I do think that centrally he's going to be able to start to bring that out more.
Yeah, his long passing was really good yesterday too. You mentioned he
Yeah,
had set up the one to Bernardo and stuff like that, but going 4 for 8 on the long passes, especially the type of long passes that he was, he's not taking long passes out to somebody standing in 30 yards of space.
yeah,
He's drilling it in there to Bernardo, and he's spraying it wide and all that. So yeah, I think that he has everything to his game. I think that I mentioned the finishing being the strongest part of his game. I think his finishing being so strong had last year led a lot of people to act as if he's a one-dimensional type of player, and I really don't think that we had ever seen that outside of maybe last season to where he had become one-dimensional because he's always had the long passes, he's always had the quick link up, he's always had the, like you said, the passes to the lob. I mean, I'm just thinking about the season he won Player of the Year, that pass that he did to Holland for the Wolves goal where he just smashes it wide. Holland
yeah,
takes it down with a touch, cuts in, and puts it in. He's always had that. So I think seeing him express that a little bit more this year, and then he had mentioned yesterday that he hears the noise and it really affects him. He hears the noise around him. He's like, I can't avoid it. Like I know
yeah,
a lot of players say that I just like I ignore it, I don't see it, blah blah. He basically just came out and said like it really affects me and I do see it. So hopefully seeing this more well-rounded, and I know the reception on social media was really good yesterday. Hopefully him being able to express himself in this full way leads to more positive coverage of him and he can see things like this and it just builds and builds his confidence up because I
yeah.
think a confident Foden is one of the best players in the world. As we see after every time he scores a goal, I just hope that this can be something that he enters a match with instead of having to wait for something really good to happen first.
Yeah. Same stuff with Reinders as well. I mean, I think you had mentioned the ball. His reaction to Nico O'Reilly grabbing it, you can see him like put his hands up as like a like, no, it wasn't for you. And then the only other thing I think there was the moment of when Reinders he like dribbled into like three or four players and lost the ball. And that was in Womo's chance that ended up being offside, where he ended up not even putting the shot on goal, so it didn't matter. But it was just Reinders trying to do too much and like dribble between three or four players. And yeah, it's not great, but it's the fourth game, so I'm still not too worried about it. I don't think it's like, oh, this guy doesn't have any ability. I think it's very clear he does, and the fact that Pep is continuing to play him, I think speaks like to that ability overall.
Yeah, he's not even getting rotated really. I mean, Nico G is clearly his like backup slash understudy. It's not like a really hasn't been much of a competition so far this year. So that just leads me to think that Pep knows that he just has to make Reinders work for this system to work how it's intended. So yeah, I think that his improvement will be noticeable over time. I mean, we have a lot of high expectations for him just given how he started because everybody was saying, myself included, this guy looks like he's been here for years already at this point. And I think that that type of mentality leads us to expect him to be a seasoned player already when he's not, and he's still going to have these little growing pains within Pep's system and stuff like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if this midfield clicks and we become a way more imperious force in the league, like, something that people have to really reckon with because of just the talent in the midfield and stuff, but we're going to have to wait for it to click.
Moving away from the central midfielders to kind of then talk about more out wide. Jeremy Doku gets 2 assists, and Bernardo Silva, he does grab an assist. I don't think it was the best performance overall, but I want to know what you thought of Doku. Maybe it's that third season leap, the not talked about Pep third season leap that we could finally be seeing, and then more Bernardo right wing discourse, which is always the best thing.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw from Doku. I mean, I've been a harsh critic of Doku, as I've said before, but I think that this is exactly what you want out of Doku. You're seeing him really focus on the secondary action, not just the dribble, not just the finding the space. Like, he's finding the man after all that, and I think that that is obviously super important. It led to both of those goals yesterday that he had gotten assists for, but yeah, I think this is what you need to see out of him. I think this is a really important season for him. Obviously, like you said, the third season. I think the third season league thing kind of makes a little bit of sense to me when you consider the fact of, if you just chalk up last season as a lost season for
Yeah,
pretty much everybody,
yeah,
a lot more things start to make sense in terms of like how this season's going to develop and stuff. You just view this as basically Doku's second season, Stevino like season 1.5. Like, a lot of things are going to like make a lot more sense. I think you're going to start to understand the leaps that I think we're going to see out of these players
yeah,
and stuff like that. I think it was really interesting to see that a lot of Doku's better work came from an interior position.
yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Being within the edges of the box and stuff, especially for the Foden goal. I think that that's something I really like to see from Doku. I think it opens up a lot of aspects to his game. Being inside, he becomes a lot less predictable in terms of how the defender can set up to defend against him. And I think you saw Luke Shaw in that moment really get fooled by the fact of, okay, where is this guy going to go? And then Doku just waits. He's so much quicker that he can
Yeah.
wait for the defender to make the first move, and then he's just the other way. So I think that, yeah, I think that was outstanding from him, and I would love to see him continue to grow, especially in Marmoush's absence here, just to really establish himself and his role and his style of play within the team. Because I would like to see him become an established player. I really think it would be very beneficial for City not to have to go into next season thinking about, do we need to look at another player for this position. So I think that, yeah, I really hope that he continues to kick on. And then you had mentioned Bernardo. Bernardo. It's like, I just really feel like his legs have kind of gone on him. I really felt that when I was watching the game yesterday in terms of like, he's getting tracked down by a lot of players when he's running with the
Yeah.
ball and stuff. I saw him 3 or 4 times just get ran down and dispossessed, and I was like, even Bernardo's never been the fastest, most athletic player, but you don't really see that often, in my opinion, and stuff on the, especially from the wing positions when he's got the sideline to help defend for it, or retain possession and stuff for him too. So yeah, maybe he'll build into the season. I know he's an older player. Sometimes it can take them a while to get into season and stuff like that, and really build up form and fitness. But when you have someone like Oscar Bob and what we've seen from Oscar Bob this season so far, sitting on the sideline, I mean, if you just look at Bernardo's dual numbers, right? So Bernardo's dual numbers this season have been pretty atrocious, if I'm going to be honest. We're looking at like 1 for 6, 1 for 5 type of the games almost every appearance so far in terms of dual numbers, which is just, it's really hard to see. Like, as I said, with you having Bob on the bench, whose dual numbers are best in the Premier League from out there in terms of the amount of duels he's able to continuously win and stuff. And I just think, obviously the maturity is there. The way that Bernardo is able to drop into deep midfield and retain possession and control tempo when we need it is a level above what Bob has right now. And I think that that's probably the reason he's playing. But it wouldn't surprise me as the season goes and Bob gets more and more comfortable within this system to see him really take the reins in that regard,
Yeah.
especially with Bernardo's contract coming up here soon and stuff like that too, to really just see more of a passing of the guard. I mean, that's a like for like kind of like player exchange there. They're very similar as players, even though I think Bob is more athletic and stuff like that. I think that their roles within the system are really similar. So hopefully we'll see that emergence because I really think that is deserving for him.
Yeah, I think Bob definitely brings a lot of the same control aspects. He's just quicker and is much more likely to like beat someone off the dribble now. Whereas Bernardo, I would say like probably 17, 18 version of Bernardo when he was like constantly getting those right wing spots before he was kind of moved centrally. It it felt similar. And now that it's weird, Bernardo is now getting pushed back out to the right wing as he gets older, which is like a confusing kind of situation about it. But I do think that he's yeah. There were a couple times like with when Drogu was just kind of like he would basically just like carry Drogu. It felt like for like 5 or 10 yards and just like kind of take that pressure and then play it off, which I thought was nice overall. But yeah, I think to your point, it's Oscar Bob season very soon.
Yeah, I think
And yeah,
that
the Doku. Oh, there you go.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that it's a lot like I remember this very specific quote from Pep when we played Arsenal away in 22-23, to where that was the game Bernardo played left back, and he was talking about, I just need to get this guy on the pitch. Like
Yeah,
I feel obligated to always have him on the field in some way. And it kind of feels that way when I'm saying, like you mentioned, him getting pushed out to right wing as he gets older. It makes no like it to me, it makes not a lot of sense logically, but if you view it through that lens of Pep viewing that this guy is essential to be on the pitch and I
yeah,
just need to get him out there somewhere, it starts to make a little bit more sense in that way.
yeah. And the Doku Central stuff, I totally agree with as well. That's a thing that I don't know. It feels like it's almost that's a system that City can replicate because Marmouche plays more centrally as well too. And I actually think that that's maybe a little bit better if because they are going to be different players and they're going to provide different things from like a defense standpoint. But if both of them, I think, can play in that same similar way, I do think that there is beneficial overall to the team chemistry if they know that there's going to be a left winger there, regardless of whether it's Joku or Marmouche, and they're going to know that they have slightly different styles.
Do you want to talk about the defense?
Yeah, let's talk about the defense. That was a thing that you had seemed pretty intrigued about. So I'm just going to put the ball in your court. You can either pick O'Reilly, Guardiola, Diaz, or Kusanov. I think you have positives and negatives to say depending on the player. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I think that was an overall very positive individual performance from the defense. I know a lot of people are really worried about the defense in terms of we're still conceding quite a few chances and stuff like this. I think that a lot of this is tactical. I had done some discussions with my friend Aaron NT, and I'd read John McKenzie's thread, just analyzing our defense and our pressing structure and stuff like that. And yeah, it just makes sense. I was just going to get into it a little bit because I think last year we realized, and I think all of us as fans saw how easy we are to cut open in transition, how easy it is to cut through our midfield when the spaces are large and stuff like that. So John McKenzie had mentioned that we this season seem to not be sitting back and accepting the fact that these chances are just going to happen or these transition opportunities are going to happen, and we've decided to be very proactive and try to prevent them. So we're in such an aggressive press this year. We're leaping guys up. We're having sometimes up to 5 people, if you include our fullbacks, jumping up in the front line ish of our press and stuff like that, and that's creating a lot of space on the edges and out wide. And I think that we saw that a lot versus United with Embuemo. He was consistently able to be the outlet on Nico O'Reilly's side. Now, I think Nico O'Reilly handled him quite well in terms of the actual duels, the actual, defending, blocking shots, aerial duels, all that stuff. And that's fine. I think that winning the duels is super important, but that's only half the battle, honestly, in my opinion, because the spaces that we were leaving around Nico O'Reilly, especially given, Doku is not the worst presser in the world, but he is not what I would consider like a real high work rate defender in that way in terms of tracking back and stuff. He left a lot of space for Nico O'Reilly to have to cover. And I think that that's something that we're seeing on both sides. Now, Kusanov has the physical, ability. He's a physical marvel. I mean, he's one of the fastest defenders that I think we have in the league. So he's able to make up a lot of those spaces, and I think that's why you saw a lot of the attacks down that side kind of get stifled and then focus more and more down United's right hand side as the game went on. But Nico O'Reilly, he isn't slow. He's not a liability in the press, but he struggles to get out when that ball is quickly switched over, to get out wide quick enough to not leave a space inside for them to be able to make the pass. And I think we saw that a couple of times. I know the chance that Sesko had where it was called a handball, as you had mentioned earlier, it was from that exact same type of thing. They pass it out to Mazraoui out there out wide, and then Sesko makes a run right through the center channel as Nico O'Reilly's trying to filter wide, and it's right in. I mean, that's something that we're going to continue to see as our personnel is in its current state. I think I had mentioned yesterday, I think Ryan Aitnery would handle these situations much better, just given his increased foot speed and his more natural fit to the left back position. I think that these pressing jumps are very much more natural to him than it is to Nico O'Reilly, who spent much of his youth football playing as a 10, as a striker. These are things that he's learning on the job, where these are very intense, quick decisions that need to be made under pressure. And I think that something that is natural to somebody, it would make a lot more sense to them, such as like
Yeah.
A Marie. So hopefully we will see some, maybe not only some adjustments in the way that we're handling these wide areas, but also some progression and growth in our players in terms of the mental ability to figure these things out at speed.
Yeah, I think the O'Reilly stuff is super interesting, and it does just feel that for the most part he's just getting more and more comfortable. When you think of like last season when he was first kind of breaking through at that left back spot, so that's a thing where I'm very curious to see throughout the season if I don't know. It seems interesting to me that Ake is not getting as many minutes. I know that he came on when Nate Murray came off injured against Spurs, but that I thought was a little interesting that he's going with O'Reilly instead. And yeah, Kusanov, I really enjoy him. I don't like when he throws the ball in because I don't. It actually really frustrated me. I would like in my notes, I just like kept putting like Kusanov not throwing to open man on throw in. Like it just like kept like with like minute by minutes. Other than that, I do really enjoy him as a player. He does have a little bit of a unnecessary foul in him. I mean, whether it was the one that set up the Brighton goal or when he just like ran through Drogu, like super early, like unnecessary, like those like little things. He's young, he's gonna figure it out. Like that's just a thing that's gonna come with age and experience. But I enjoy him as like a not as fast as Walker, but can play in a very similar, almost like free safety kind of role and can just like sweep up loose balls that kind of come out through there and balls over the top.
Yeah, I think that he is so high potential. I could very much see him being like, the best center back in the league one day or something like that. Given his age, he has great instincts too. I think is like something that's very underrated about him. Everybody talks about the physical things that he is different from like someone like Ruben Diaz in terms of he's able to close space and transition and stuff like that, and he has more shifty hips so he can deal with wingers. But his instinct to be in the right position is Diaz esque in
Yeah.
terms of I see the potential with him as not only a high line defender but as a box defender, and that combination is really rare. So yeah, I definitely think that he has a really bright future here, and I think that also I just really want to mention, speaking of Ruben Diaz, this guy's a big game riser, man. I know that we all talk about the aerial duels thing, but he was winning his aerial duels, and it's against Sesko yesterday. Like these
Mhm.
are like that's like a guy who's like you're really concerned. Is he going to be able to hold up in the air? Are we going to consistently face issues in the air because of Sesko? And when it comes to a big game, I just wish that he would treat every game like this, because
Yeah.
why are you losing aerial duels to Kudus, but you're able
He
to?
used to.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, yeah, it's something that I'm not super sure why it happens with him, but it does give me some reassurance that in the biggest moments, I feel like I can count on him to graft his way to wins in these duels and stuff like that. And then obviously all the other things that he brings, the leadership and stuff, obviously like that. I do think it's good that the leadership can come from other places now. I know that people in the stadium had mentioned it to me, but Donnarumma was doing a lot of barking at the back line as well, and I think that that's super promising to see in a debut. Just because if Diaz is injury prone as well, I just like to see these responsibilities and these, like, I don't know, these ideas of having leadership among the back line get spread out a little bit more, so that
Yeah.
we can have some consistency if one player goes down. You don't ever like to see a complete aspect of a team go away with just one person's injury. So yeah.
Yeah. I thought Diaz was fantastic. The thing that honestly stuck out to me was actually the slide tackle that set up the little play where it was like Reinders, Holland, and Bernardo kind of all looped up when Holland had like that outside the foot shot where it felt like the old version of Diaz, the aggressive, he times the tackle perfectly. And yeah, when there's Nabil had fired out a tweet where the City Report owner, when it was like when Diaz is winning in the air, like that's when that like it's good. And I'm looking at it right now, it's 4 out of 6 aerial duels, which yeah, to your point, when you're going up against Sesko, who's a tall athletic freak, watch his basketball highlights if you want to know how much of an athlete that guy is. It's insane. And it felt like a very good foundational block for what's going to be a very big week. And it's like, if you can build on this and be this player that we know that you have been, and can just kind of be a little bit more consistent overall, it'll be massive. I need that Mr. LinkedIn version of Diaz back.
Yeah, watch now though. We're gonna mention this, and now he's gonna go 0 for 12 against.
Lukaku's going to bully him.
Yeah, it's gonna be Hoyland and Victor, the
Yeah.
striker for Arsenal, who neither of them can
Yeah.
jump. So we're just gonna see that regression. But hopefully, hopefully he can keep this up. Obviously, I think that if he's able to maintain good form, having a good Ruben Diaz in a team that is gonna probably concede more shots, given the way that the goalkeeper's playing and the way that we're building up these days, is probably going to be a vital thing. And I think that that's another player that it seems like no matter the early season struggles, like I was mentioning with Reinders, you try to play this player into form, just given the potential peak benefit that they can give you. And lastly, I didn't mention him yet, but Gavardiol, huge, huge impact in build up in terms of having a natural left footer on that side, able to
Yeah.
distribute. I mean, Donnarumma missed some passes down the field, but having the ability to just dump it to Gavardiol instead and have him distribute, even if it's not perfect and it's putting him under more pressure and more stress, is going to be something that not only we need to do, but is going to be very beneficial for us, I think. So, yeah, he was really good as well.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I have it pulled up on FotMob because Guardiola has the lowest score on FotMob, which, I mean, like, if it's built up from a center back standpoint, it's always not going to be like the sexiest kind of thing. But yeah, he led the team, I believe, in accurate passes. He had more. He completed more passes than Rodri in one less attempt. Um, and more than Foden just by a little bit as well. So he was on the ball the most, which is not abnormal for City, for a City center back, but he's someone that he was involved in the setup as well. He found Foden for the first goal, so him being able to break lines as well, absolutely.
I just think it's really good to see that, like right up the spine and stuff like that, with Gvardiol having a ton of passes and a ton of possession, Rodri having a ton of passes, Foden, and then straight up to Holland, who had another great in possession, like general play type of game. I think that sign of the spine being all in good form is really promising. So yeah,
I also realize we're 33 minutes into this and we haven't mentioned Holland at all. So
yeah,
maybe it's time to talk about the player of the match.
yeah. I how how much better can he be than what he was yesterday? I mean, that's pretty much the archetypal Holland performance right there. If you're, in the City side, I mean, in a different system, maybe he provides you something else. But for us, that's exactly what you want. His hold up from the goal kicks, as I mentioned earlier, outstanding. I think that is super, super important for how we're going to play this season, given the amount of second balls we're going to be trying to win. I think his finishing, we had talked about hopefully the form from Norway carries over. I think we saw some of that. It was good
Yeah,
finishing. I mean, obviously, he had the one chance where it's like, of course, the easiest chance of the day we can't
yeah,
capitalize on. But I think that, yeah, overall, he had some good creation. He's been building that more into his game recently. I've noticed that's always been there. Whenever people say he's like a nothing in that department, I always just think back to that first United derby that he played,
yeah,
where he was playing those passes to Foden all over the
yeah.
place. And it's just like he has this ability. It's just nice for him to have shown it more and more. And obviously, the cohesion with Doku is the biggest thing, because
Yeah.
both of them have the physical traits to be completely unstoppable in the right scenarios. If you put them in the right situations consistently, they can be unstoppable. And what I'm liking to see is that they're able to put each other in these situations more. And if these two can become like a duo, almost like a Doku Holland type of partnership, to where you're relying on it for goals each week, I think that that's the type of partnership that takes you to new heights. That's like your De Bruyne Holland type thing, where you have just something that no matter the quality of the other team, it will come through. It will show up. So hopefully that will continue as well.
Yeah, Holland, when he has space, is just, it's unbelievable. Like the time where when whatever it was early on in the first half, where he just could have set up, either Bernardo could have taken the shot, or if Bernardo's pass wasn't as heavy to him, it could have probably led to a Holland shot. Of when he like kind of like beats the defender, carries it forward, lays it off to Bernardo, and it was just like, if they're able to find ways to kind of create those transitions more for Holland to take advantage of, I mean, it's just going to be just so much fun to watch. Cannot wait.
There's nobody better in space. I mean, you have other players who are just as quick as him, but of the players who are just as quick as him, none of them are as strong as him. And of
Yeah.
all the players up there that are as strong as him, none of them are as fast as him. He's a unique physical like marvel. And like, yeah, I think that I think that's why we're okay playing a little bit deeper. I think that's why we're okay playing a little bit more of a transitional style. I think that our attackers especially are really built for this. I mean, I mentioned Doku and Holland, who both obviously thrive off of space, but you're looking at Marmouche as well. This and Savino. These are large space players. So I think
Yeah.
that, yeah, I think that it's nice. I think that a lot of people criticize the lack of synergy you would see on our recruitment, but I think if you peel back a layer and you like take into account our style of play changes that we're trying to integrate, I think that some of the recruitment makes a lot more sense in that regard in terms of trying to just dominate the big spaces in transition, which we've been hurt by so easily in Big Six matches recently and Champions League matches over the past couple of years. So I think that we're trying to integrate a little bit of that into our game so that we can play that style as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting seeing how much they sat back in the second half, but when you also think of how many counterattacks they were then able to create and how many then additional chances on top of that, I think it was the right decision. It was weird though, just seeing how much how much pressure City were kind of inviting on themselves. That was, I don't know, not something I'm really used to in this current setup. And yeah, you mentioned the Holland chance earlier. If he had scored if he had gotten a hat trick, another hat trick against United, because he tied Rooney and Aguero's record for most goals in the Premier League era in the Manchester Derby, which is by itself crazy. And then if he were to broke that with a hat trick, I mean, it just would have been the amount of records he's going to set. It's just going to be silly.
It's absurd that him and Foden are probably going to be number 1 and 2 on that list
Yeah.
by the next couple of derbies, just given the fact that Foden's one behind and Holland's tied right now. It's like insane how much mental dominance they have over United. Like I don't know. Maybe it's because they grew up in the area, with that hatred in their heart or whatever. But
yeah, I mean, look, for Holland, it's personal.
Yeah.
Like Roy Keane broke
also.
his like Roy Keane, for those that maybe, I mean, I don't think this is like breaking news for anyone, but in case anyone doesn't know, like Roy Keane like essentially ended Holland's dad's career, like had a really gnarly tackle, fucked up his knee. He came back and played a little bit after, but like his career was essentially done. And so I don't think Holland, I think people like tried to like bait that out of Holland and he's always like downplayed it. But it absolutely has to mean something. It absolutely has to carry extra weight.
Maybe this didn't happen, but for some reason in my head, I feel like I remember last year Keane also saying that he wasn't sorry about it or something like that. Like I'm pretty sure, or like he like didn't
Well,
really.
they have beef because of the whole I think because of like the League Two player thing. I think I again, this could be total like fan fiction, but I just feel like that came up around that time, like when he called him a League Two player, and it was just like they kept asking them questions, and I think both of them just wanted to downplay it, which I think is the right thing. And of course, Keane is just going to play the character like he is, and I actually like him as like a pundit on the show on Overlap. Like I think he serves a good purpose, but it is also it's a bit at this point too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that he's playing the character and that's fine, but I think that probably doesn't change how Holland feels about it.
Totally.
He's probably still a little bit mad about it, and Elfie is probably also telling him, you got to stick it to United every single time out. So. Yeah, it's like I said, I would rather nobody else score than those two score every single time. So long may that continue.
That's it. I can't think of anything else. I mean, 3-0 win in the Derby is absolutely fantastic. Couldn't ask for anything more. A emotional Kevin De Bruyne return with Napoli. That's going to be coming up next, and then Arsenal on the weekend.
I'm expecting a 5-goal and assist performance from Kevin De Bruyne, but we pray not. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Alrighty. I mean, that's going to be all for the show. As always, once again, I know I said it at the top, but thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Follow Philcaso on Twitter. Follow myself on Twitter. Appreciate it. Have a good one.